The hitchhiker. It was a dark and stormy night in the small town of Millfield. A young couple, Jack and Emily, were driving home from a late-night date when they saw a figure on the side of the road, waving for them to stop. At first, they were hesitant to pick up a stranger in the middle of the night, but the person looked lost and in need of help. As they pulled over to the side of the road, they saw a young woman standing there, drenched in rain, with her thumb out. She had long, blonde hair and was wearing a white dress. "Can I give you a ride?" Jack asked, as Emily unlocked the car doors. The woman didn't say anything, but simply got into the back seat of the car. Jack and Emily introduced themselves and tried to make small talk, but the woman didn't respond. She just stared out the window, as if lost in thought. After a few minutes of driving, they arrived at a bridge that crossed a river. Suddenly, the woman in the back seat let out a blood-curdling scream, causing Jack to swerve off the road and crash into a tree. When they regained consciousness, they realized that the woman had disappeared from the backseat. They searched the area around the car, but there was no sign of her. They concluded that she must have fled the scene after the accident. Shaken but unharmed, Jack and Emily returned home and tried to put the experience behind them. However, strange things started to happen around their house. Doors would open and close by themselves, and they heard footsteps and whispers in the middle of the night. One night, as they were watching a news report, they saw a picture of the woman who had hitchhiked in their car. It was a local news story about a young woman who had died in a car accident on that same bridge several years earlier. Her name was Samantha, and she was wearing the same white dress they had seen her in. Jack and Emily realized with horror that they had picked up the ghost of Samantha, the phantom hitchhiker who had been haunting that bridge for years. They tried to seek help from a local psychic, but nothing seemed to stop Samantha's restless spirit from tormenting them. Finally, Jack and Emily decided to face their fears head-on. They returned to the bridge and called out to Samantha, asking her to leave them alone. Suddenly, they heard her voice whispering in their ears, "Thank you for bringing me home." From that moment on, Jack and Emily never experienced any more paranormal activity. It seemed that by giving Samantha a ride, they had helped her find the peace she had been seeking for so many years. 3. The mirror. Once there was a woman named Sarah who had just moved into a new apartment. She was excited to start fresh and decorate her new home. One of the first things she bought was an ornate mirror that she hung on the wall in her bedroom. It was a beautiful antique piece with intricate designs and a large oval-shaped glass in the center. At first, Sarah loved the mirror. She admired her reflection in it every day, marveling at how it made her look elegant and beautiful. But as the days passed, she started to notice strange things happening whenever she looked into the mirror. It was as if the mirror was reflecting something more than just her physical appearance. Sometimes, when she gazed into the mirror, she would see dark shadows lurking behind her. Other times, she would see faces staring back at her that were not her own. The longer she looked into the mirror, the more unsettled she became. One night, Sarah woke up in the middle of the night and saw that the mirror was glowing. It was a dim light, almost imperceptible, but it was definitely there. As she stared at the mirror, the glow started to get brighter and brighter until it filled the entire room. She tried to look away, but she couldn't. Suddenly, she felt a cold breath on her neck. She turned around, but there was no one there. When she looked back at the mirror, she saw a figure standing behind her reflection. It was a tall, dark figure with eyes that glowed like embers. Sarah screamed and tried to run, but she was frozen in place. The figure stepped out of the mirror and started to walk towards her. She could feel its cold breath on her face, and she could see the hatred in its eyes. In that moment, Sarah realized that the mirror was not just a reflection of her physical appearance. It was a portal to another dimension, a doorway that led to a realm of darkness and terror. The figure reached out and touched her forehead, and everything went blank. When Sarah woke up, she was lying on the floor, and the mirror was gone. There was no sign of the figure, and no one believed her story. But Sarah knew what she had seen, and she never forgot the terror that lay beyond the mirror. From that day on, Sarah avoided mirrors as much as possible, afraid of what they might reveal. She knew that the mirror in her new apartment had been a gateway to something unspeakable, and she never wanted to experience anything like that again. 4. The Uninvited Guest. In a small town, a young family moved into a new house. It was a beautiful, spacious home with a large yard and a cozy fireplace. The family was excited to start their new life there and spent the first few days settling in and getting comfortable. But as the days went on, strange things began to happen. Doors would open and close on their own, and strange noises could be heard throughout the house at night. The family tried to brush it off as just their imagination, but the occurrences grew more frequent and intense. One night, the mother woke up to find a dark figure looming over her bed. It had glowing red eyes and long, sharp claws. She screamed and woke up her husband, but when they turned on the lights, the figure was gone. The next day, the family decided to investigate the strange occurrences. They searched the house from top to bottom but found nothing out of the ordinary. However, as they were about to leave the attic, they found a small, old chest hidden away in the corner. Inside the chest, they found an old book with strange markings and an ancient language that they could not understand. They also found a note that read, "Beware of the uninvited guest." As they continued to read the book, they learned that the house was built on an ancient burial ground, and the book was a guide to summoning evil spirits. The previous owner of the house had been practicing these dark arts and had summoned an evil entity into the house. The family knew they had to get rid of the book and the chest, but it was too late. The uninvited guest had already entered the house and was now tormenting the family. The figure with the glowing red eyes appeared more frequently, and the family could feel its presence even when they couldn't see it. The family tried to leave the house, but the uninvited guest was always one step ahead of them. It seemed to be following them wherever they went, and they realized that they were trapped. They were now at the mercy of this evil entity, and they didn't know how to escape. As the days passed, the family became more and more desperate. They tried everything from calling the police to calling in a priest to exorcise the house, but nothing worked. The uninvited guest was too powerful. In the end, the family was never seen again. Some say that they were consumed by the uninvited guest, while others say that they were taken to another realm, where they continue to be tormented to this day. The house was left abandoned, and no one ever dared to enter it again. But the legend of the uninvited guest lived on, as a warning to those who dared to mess with the forces beyond their control. Please like and click the subscribe button if you haven't.